Hello, and my name is Peter Rushmer, and I'm your host today of a Half Dozen Things podcast. A Half Dozen Things is a podcast for business owners and professionals just like you. Whether you're an underdog hungry for success or you're already smashing it but want to continue to level up, we're here each week for you to get insight and learning from the very best in the business. No fluff, no BS, and no self-proclaimed gurus talking about how easy business or life is. Just real, frank, and raw conversations. So the red light's going. Hello, Suzy. Nice to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
Hi, Pete. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very well, thank you.
Amazing.
Are you good?
Yeah, really, really good actually. It's Friday afternoon. I'm in the office, but I think I'm going to crash out after this. So, I'm good. I'm looking forward to the weekend. What about you? Got much lined up?
Not a lot this weekend. Not a lot. Just the way I like it. I think the weeks are so full on at the moment. I like to have a little bit of breathing space at the weekend, go with the flow.
Exactly.
But, yeah, hopefully some sunshine.
Cool. And you've had an early start this morning, haven't you? Tell the listeners what you've been up to this morning.
Certainly have. Early start. It's Friday, so it's a networking day for me. So I remember at BNI Lighthouse in Northampton. I'm president, so I get the joy of running the meeting each week. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And Friday, it just sets my day up. I love breakfast networking for sure. I think there's a different dynamic. There's a different commitment. And yeah, I'm glad it's a Friday though, because like you, as soon as we're wrapped up, I'll be knocking off a bit early because I'm tired.
Yeah, exactly. Do you start early most days, or just on a Friday?
I am an early riser, not through choice. I've got a little boy who likes to wake up at 4 sometimes.
Nice, yeah.
So I am an early riser, and actually, I do find I get the most done in the morning. I think my brain's definitely best in the morning. Yeah. So whilst it wasn't a choice, it's definitely working for me. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's kind of how I roll as well, to be fair. I like to get up early, and that's how the brain works. Although it takes me a little while, I need a couple of strong coffees, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So today Suzy's going to be sharing a half dozen things with us, which I'm quite excited to be talking about, to be fair. So we've got 6 cool things. Integrity, family comes first, which is really topical considering what we were just talking about. Seeking out adventures, big and small, being courageous, fostering resilience, and having fun as well. So yeah, it's a good reminder for that last one, because sometimes I can get a little bit serious. So we'll leave that one till the end and finish on a high note, right? So integrity is so important, right? Talk to me a bit more about why that's so important for you.
I think it's my personal and business number one core value. I'm going to be bold and say, in my opinion, it's probably the most important thing in the world. It's like my backbone. It's the lifeblood that runs through everything. And to me, I think integrity is the classic doing the right thing, even when no one's looking. It's just a real honest compass, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good steer, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think I've always held a great deal of integrity in my life and but I think even more so it's grown. The importance and the significance of it has definitely grown the further along my business journey I've got. And I think my husband Paul's my business partner now, and we often joke about it, because I remember him saying to me very early on, I was like, I'm quite instinctive, and we had this situation, and he was like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. And my integrity, like alarm, as I call it now, was starting to kind of go zzz. And I remember Paul and I talking about it, and he was like, well, you can't make a business decision based on what you feel. And I'm like, oh, totally can, totally did, was the right thing. And now actually, that is my integrity alarm is part of our decision making process as a business. If we're working something out, I'll draw back onto integrity, instinct, and then it's his job to then go and validate those. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not something you can't just be like, oh well, I feel this, so I'm going to do it. It's definitely part of our process. But I think it's just imperative in business and life generally. So and I get that about you. I think, you know, you strike me as the kind of chap that has a lot of integrity as well. So I hope you're meeting me on this.
100%, yeah. So I love it. Yeah, no, integrity is absolutely what it's all about. Honesty, integrity. You know, one of our core values is no BS that I shared with you earlier, right? So it's kind of like having that steely eye on reality and just being honest. Part of what we do with compliance is, you know, at some point, sometimes you have to have a bad breath conversation with a client, and we love them. We love all our clients, right? But sometimes things might not be as they should be, and you know, we have to be able to have the integrity to do that. But that's why we do what we do, right? And they want overall every business wants to do the right thing, so sometimes you just need to steer them the right way. So having integrity is like really, really important. You've just got to it's about how measured you take it in your approach. But I just want to sort of like push a little bit on this like female intuition thing, right? So you'll get like a gut instinct, and I kind of get that, not the female intuition obviously, but I kind of get this like gut instinct when something's not quite right, you know, and you're like, I don't really know what that is, and it sort of creates a little bit of anxiety, I suppose, and you're a bit like, don't know what that is. So you kind of operate in that way, do you, Suzy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very instinctive. I think I always have been, but it's interesting that you use the word anxiety as well, because I'm also a very anxious person, which I don't. And I think learning to separate the two has been a challenge for me, but I think it's very important, because sometimes in my experience, if it smells bad, it is bad. But working out what's the instinct and what's the anxiety and and actually separating those two things. And particularly when I started my business, I think, you know, I hope I'm not alone with this. I think a lot of business owners go through the fear, the practical stuff, the mindset stuff. There's so much to do. And I think in the early days of my business, I wasn't really aligned. I was probably leading more to the fear and anxiety than the instinct. The instinct was there, but I just wasn't kind of tuned into it. But I think it's another business muscle. I see it as another business muscle. The more I listen and tune into my instincts, the more courage I have to act on them, the stronger it becomes. You know, it's like, that's how I think of it, as like a business muscle. But then it's not I do get sometimes when you're talking about like female intuition, and you tend to get a bit on the, is this a bit out there, a bit woo-woo? I love a bit woo-woo, but it is powerful. It is powerful. And I think there's a school of, and I think it's again, it's kind of different ways and different words for addressing at the same thing, isn't it?
So one of the things I was going to talk to you a bit more about, because it's really important that you have the integrity, because similar to what we do with the different things we do around HR and health and safety and what have you, it's really important that we maintain that. But particularly for you as a VA, right? So in history gone by, people would have had PAs that literally know all the deep dark secrets, right? But now you're in a position where you've got all the deep dark secrets for like lots of people. So how do you kind of manage that?
Oh, great question. And actually great that you recognise that, because I think I mean, before I started my business, I was an executive assistant to a global chief HR officer in a recruitment company. So I think my approach has always been, I used to call it the PA code, and now it's the VA code. Goes in, stays in. It's not worth, when I look back to corporate, it was not worth me, gosh, the amount of info I had, but it was not worth my job or my integrity to share that. And I think when I reflect on our clients and the way we work, it's an alignment of integrity. It's trust. You've got to build trust. And the most successful relationships we have with our clients are the ones that recognize that, commit to that, but also recognize the benefit of having that really solid, dependable right hand. You know, a virtual assistant can be a strategic business partner if you allow them to be. It's not just about the admin. Can be, but if you're smart about it and you look at that, when you look at a corporate PA or a corporate EA, where they sit in the company, what they support, managing up, confidentiality, all that stuff is there. It's in their blood almost. And it's just a different way of working. And obviously there's the GDPR, cybersecurity considerations to throw into the mix with a virtual assistant. And I think it's incredibly important for virtual assistants, but it's incredibly important because, as you know, it's the whole supply chain. If you're working with a VA and they aren't ICO registered or they don't have insurance, you know, I think whilst I tend to err on the woo-woo side and we're talking about integrity and trust and building and all that rapport stuff, on a practical level, make sure the house is in order. Make sure you're doing your due diligence beyond what feels like a good fit, I guess, in terms of working with a VA. But yeah, it's hugely, hugely important. And there's lots of challenges from both sides. But I think one of the lessons and the positives that's come out of this lockdown period is that actually people they've had to adapt to working remotely, and they're a lot more accepted now. And I think people are a lot more accepting of remote home-based businesses being actual real businesses. You know, I think there was always 100%. This stigma. There was always a stigma. So I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit here. I can't even remember what your original question was.
Not at all. It's absolutely fine. It's all good. I asked you what size your feet were. No, fine. Anyway, so
got quite small feet actually, Pete.
I'll have you. Right. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Do they smell though?
No.
Mine aren't great today. It's a bit warm in my office. Anyway, I've literally just slid them off under the desk here. Anyway, right, I'm gonna invite people away from underneath my desk and talk a bit more about family comes first, always. Mm-hmm. So that's really important. You wrote that in the email to me when we were lining this up, right? So you've put family comes first, always. I think that's a really important, just to sort of pick at that a little bit. So tell me a little bit about family comes first and what that means for you.
Yeah, well, I suppose, I mean, my business was created, my little boy is my why. He was the purpose of me wanting to start a business, and he's my focus. You know, I think when you become a parent, it does change a lot of things. And I was really fortunate. I had a great, I mean, I've only had one child. I don't know if there'll be any more because, my God, he's a force of nature. But I had a great pregnancy and I had a really empowering birth, which is not something that I share that often because people look at me like I'm a bit wacky. They're like, what? But hands down, it was the most empowering day of my life, bringing a human into this world. I mean, it was uncomfortable, don't get me wrong, but and
sorry, you trumped me there, by the way. I'm just going to let you carry on, but you trumped me. I've never been there, so I don't know.
Oh, you what? So yeah, anyway, long story short, I think it was the start of my business journey. Family's always been important to me. I've got a very close-knit family, but it was the start of my business journey. I studied hypnobirthing when I was pregnant, which is based on NLP techniques, and it's birth preparation. And that kind of really switched my mindset. And then I do go off on tangents, but I do usually come back around, so bear with. Okay. So that was the start of me switching into the mindset and the power of the mindset. Him at heart, like I delivered a human being. I had no pain relief or intervention. I was like, I can do anything. I'm limitless. I've mastered this, and then I've applied all that logic to my business. But so my little boy is my driving force and my purpose, but also he was the defining moment that actually that experience gave me the clarity, the confidence, the drive to actually, I made a human. I can make a business, right? So that was a real defining moment. And I have to absolutely, he's the reason that I started the business. I did everything for him, and family is another huge value. We're a family business. My husband works with me, and we view our businesses as an extension of our family. Our clients, our franchisees, our suppliers, we're throwing our arms around people, obviously not now because of COVID, but that's just who we are. We're passionate, people orientated people, and family isn't always blood. So yeah, and I think it's important. When I think back to the start of the business, I wanted freedom, I wanted flexibility, I wanted fulfillment, so I could have the best life possible for my little boy and demonstrate work ethic and all these things to him. And that's kind of evolved, and now I get to help other people with the 3 Fs, as I call them, in various different capacities, but it always comes back down to family. I mean,
I like it.
that's what we do
What
it
are the
for.
3 Fs? What are the 3 Fs then, Suzy?
Freedom, fulfillment, and flexibility.
Right, okay.
That's what I
Freedom,
was.
fulfillment, and flexibility.
That's what I was seeking for my professional life when I started the business, and then and that's not unusual, right? I bet. I mean, what was your driving force? What was your pull with the business?
Oh, that's a great question, to be fair. I was thinking about the 3 Fs, and I'm such a child because I was thinking about something else totally.
Do elaborate on that, please.
No, I mustn't. But certainly, particularly the transport operators who know me will probably know what I'm thinking about.
Okay, let's move on.
Anyway, why did I start the business? I must focus. That's 1 F. Okay, so I'm focusing on why I started the business. So for me, it was freedom. That was massive. So one of the things for me is I always wanted to be able to go and do and have and be whatever I want to have at that time or do at that time. And I think I've always got frustrated when it's felt like a door's not open, or, I'm not allowed in the room for the big boy conversation, Yeah. So I just want to be able to open the door and go in. So that's the thing for me. It isn't really about all the materials of being successful and the financial side, which is another F, by the way. But yeah, a lot of it's about freedom and freedom of choice and being able to provide that for the family as well. So yeah, 100%. So we've got 4 children, another F, but yeah, 4 children. Yeah, 4 children. Yeah.
Hats off to you,
Yeah.
Pete.
And I didn't give birth to any of them though.
No, hats off to Mrs. Pete.
Yeah, exactly. Well done, Mrs. Rushmore, if you're listening. So 4 children, and
4
they're absolutely
kids.
awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, they're absolutely awesome, and I do everything for them. So I want them to be able to have the things that I didn't have and be able to have choices, and I want to be able to help them with get themselves set up, because I think in time, I think it seems generationally like things get harder each time. That's the vibe I get anyway.
Yeah.
I think, it sounds a little bit selfish, but I think I had it harder than my parents, and I think that they probably had it harder than their parents. People may shoot me down for that, but that's my perception. And I think that our children are going to have it even harder as the population increases, as house values increase, and the value ratio to income ratio reduces more and more, and debt ratio increases. I think there's going to be real challenges. So it's really important for me that they do that. And then sort of my big why, and actually you're the first person to have asked it, is and one of them is my daughter's disabled, so I wanted to be able to know that she will be looked after as well, and I didn't feel that I'd be able to provide that, working in a job, just over broke.
Pete, you're making me a bit emotional.
No, not at all. Don't be emotional. But yeah, so it's just one of them. I didn't want her to struggle or be reliant on anyone other than herself, because I've done the work now to ensure that she can be self-sufficient and reliant, right? So there we go.
That's incredible. Oh, thank you.
Cool. Oh, no worries. You're more than welcome. Thanks for asking, to be fair. Okay, cool. So talk to me. Next one then. So family, massively important. And one of the things I love to do with the family is to travel and go and do cool stuff. And to be fair, setting up the business is a bit of an adventure, right? So your third one's about seeking out adventures, big and small, right? So talk to me a bit about that. And do you mean your business, or do you mean family, or do you mean a bit of both?
Yeah, both, for sure. I think we're a home-based business, and I think when you do run your own business, the lines are blurred, aren't they? And so I think I don't have a stop button. I'm always like work, business. I don't stop thinking about my business. So I think the two are very closely, very very distinctly separated, but very closely linked and integrated. And for me, I think adventure is a bit of an ethos, and I think it encompasses my outlook. I guess I always view things as an adventure. You're as you so beautifully said, starting a business is an adventure. Our adventures have been perhaps a little bit more small scale in recent weeks, but they are still just as meaningful and significant, and I think I wake up every day and I think, okay, how can I add some, maybe that's having a little 4-year-old boy as well, because everything is an adventure to him, and children generally, like, they see so differently to us, don't they? And they do see the magic and opportunity, and sometimes we'll go and make a den in the garden, and we'll go on a treasure hunt, and that's an adventure, right? It doesn't have to be a big grand 2-week trip somewhere. I think there's always joy and adventures to be found in the everyday, even more so recently. And again, I think it's a mindset thing, in terms of starting a business can be really terrifying and really hard, or it can be an adventure. It's a mindset definition of how you look at things. And I always like to look for the adventure, because there's always joy and discovery to be found.
Got you. Right, so I'm going to come to you in a minute. I'm going to give you some thinking time, all right? But make sure you listen to my response first, because it's important. So
okay.
I'm going to ask you what your biggest adventure's been, non-work related. Biggest adventure,
non-work.
right? Hang on.
Okay.
So I'm gonna share my little story, right? So it's all about me. It's my podcast, right? Anyway.
Absolutely.
I'm joking, because it's all about you, really. No one turns up to listen to me. Anyway, but yeah. So big adventure, flagship, massive adventure. Left corporate job, safety, security, big family, big overheads. What an adventure that's been. Nearly going for broke October last year and what have you. But yeah, it's all good fun, right? It's like proper one of those stories that you read in books and stuff. But mine hasn't quite had the happy ending yet, so we'll see. But I'm sure it will happen long term, sooner or later, right? Anyway, but I think so. Yeah, business, massive adventure, but from a family point of view, I think there's a couple of that will stand out for me, like family holidays, because I love them. It's a massive thing that's like such a big part of what we do. And the first time we took the kids abroad, we drove to the south of France, and I literally drove through the night. I've done 20 hours ish, and this is a thing, right? Because I hope my listeners aren't paying too much attention, because one of the things I do is I measure working time directive and driver's hours for HGV drivers, and they're never allowed to drive solid like that. 4.5 hours, they've got to have a break. But I was in a car, so but anyway, I drove through the night, very little breaks. But yeah, we got to France. It was amazing. First time the kids were away, and we stayed in like one of these like safari tents on like a Euro camp. It wasn't anything too exciting,
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, by all means, a lot of people will probably go, oh yeah, or what have you. But anyway, we loved it, and the kids absolutely loved it. The sounds of the crickets at night and being outside in the great outdoors in the south of France, super hot. It was amazing. What an adventure that was. So that was the first time they experienced like a proper long trip. And to be fair, they were on the way down, they were sound, they were really good. There was none of this, are we there yet? Because that would have been quite tedious over that length of journey. On the way back, probably not so much. I had a Nissan Qashqai, and we stopped and had snacks, and my youngest, she had mini cheddars, and I don't think I ever got the smell of mini cheddars out of the seatbelt after she was sick.
Kids are gross.
Yeah, proper bread. Anyway, and then I suppose another great one was proper taking them on the plane as well. But there's this weird thing, right? Because I'd not flown for ages, because when the kids were little, we probably didn't have the money to be able to take them away like that. So, we took them.
And the logistics of
exactly.
Come on, be fair.
Exactly. So Tallulah, when we went to Cyprus, probably sort of 2 years ago, something like that. Tallulah would have been like 4 or 5, 4 even. And so she's the youngest. Yeah, and she going on the plane, like this anxiety of like that. What an adventure just going through the airport with 6 kids is. Literally like, oh yeah, let me just like carry them and take my belt off and let my trousers fall down whilst I go through the scanner. Like. Loads of fun that. And then going on the plane, like the anxiety of a plane taking on and off, I felt it so much more with children, because for some reason, like when I'm strapped in and I've got nowhere to go, it's okay if it crashes, because that's just how my life's going to be, right? But you just feel this massive amount more anxiety going on an adventure with the kids, because you've got to keep them safe. Anyway, There you go. Hopefully I've given you enough time to think of an amazing adventure.
No, I was just listening to you. I haven't done anything.
Okay.
Loving your stories. But firstly, have you written a book?
Have I?
Have you?
No.
Will you be? Because just you saying about like your business journey being like, just wanted to ask.
Maybe one day. Maybe if there's a story to tell at the end of it, right?
You totally should. I buy into that cliche of everybody having a book in them. But
Okay.
non-work. It's interesting because we were due to take Rex. He's 4, and we were gonna fly first abroad holiday together, but we obviously couldn't because lockdown, etc. But I just booking it, and I was anxious about taking him. But we were going with the family. But anyway, non-work related adventure. It's really tough because I think I definitely view becoming a mother an adventure. That's probably been the most significant and heartbreaking and soul destroying and empowering and uplifting whirlwind of an adventure. Becoming a mother, for sure. And people tell me it doesn't get easier.
Yeah, mine don't get any easier, to be fair. They just challenge me and tell me, and they just challenge me more and more, and now they're getting cleverer than me and everything. So, yeah, we'll see.
I know.
Right?
I'm sure my boy's cleverer than me. He's fascinated with space at the moment. He's like, "Mummy, how do satellites work?" And he's getting really deep, and I'm like, "I'm gonna have to do some Googling tonight, I think." But anyway, so I'm thinking probably a couple of family adventures that come to mind. We did a road trip to France with Rex a couple of years ago and my husband's in-laws, and Rex was small enough to he'd not quite hit the toddler phase, so I could still put him in the carrier, and we just did this really lovely long road trip, stopped at loads of different places. And because the in-laws were there, we managed to it was a nice mix of family, quality time, beautiful places, soaking up all of the goodness. And also there was on tap kind of babysitters as well. So it was like tick, 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 tick. I think that was definitely a lovely family adventure. Nice. And we actually, not glamorous at all, but very, very, very soul nourishing for me. We had a little trip down to Gloucester. We did a little glamping weekend recently. It was literally the day that it was the 4th of July that all the campsites and stuff opened, and I know that because it was my birthday, and we always go away for my birthday. So we just took this last minute, let's go glamping for the weekend. It was 2 nights. It was just, and it was so nice. You have those weekends where it feels like you've been away for 2 weeks. Because I think it was just there's no Wi-Fi, there's no phone signal, we're just off grid and lighting fires and toasting marshmallows and all that kind of stuff. That was definitely something more recently that's really kind of lifted me up. So
amazing. So you're born on Independence Day then?
Yeah.
Big one that is. Big birthday, nice. So you're 6 months and a day less than me because I'm January the 3rd. So yeah, that's 6 months and 1 day, right? Cool.
I'll take that on you. It's Friday afternoon. I'm not going to work it out.
yeah. It's like my half birthday, right? Anyway, or the day after. Anyway, it's like Boxing Day for my half birthday. That's random. Anyway, nice. Right. So
yes, we should celebrate.
I was going to say this is like the most random podcast ever, right? So being courageous. Talk to me about being courageous.
Well, I think that kind of ties into the adventures. I think they all tie quite nicely in some degree, but I think you've got to be courageous, haven't you? I think in life and in business, and I spent an embarrassing amount of my life not being courageous and just taking the easy route, or just sitting in the motions of the job that didn't really light me up, or not. I am a bit of a rebel, but I refer myself. I like to think I'm gently rebellious, and I think courage is something that I am still feeling like I'm making up to myself, because I think I spent so much of my life being quite passive and not actively creating a life for myself. Just I wasn't showing up, and obviously we know the importance of that in business, and And I think that's why that's a really important area of focus for me personally. Because personally, on that level, I feel like I do need to make it up for myself. But also, you have to be courageous in business, and I view it as a very gentle thing. I think I don't like this. Oh, you've got to be really ruthless, and you've got to be really. I don't like that. I think business to me is about being who you are, being authentic, being building relationships,
Yeah,
and just
definitely.
again doing right, and wanting to help and support others, and I think that courage underlines a lot of that as well, because it's not always easy to find the courage to have the integrity.
Yeah.
I had a really bittersweet client situation a good few years ago where this client just needed somebody in their office. It wasn't working. Their business was growing so much, so quickly. They needed more than I could give them. So I kind of had the conversations like, you need to get someone in. And they're like, oh, I know, but I don't want to deal with it. I've never hired before. What do I do? And I was like, we'll sort you out. So I did. I called in my one of my friends who runs a recruitment business, and we sorted him out. He had, I helped him with the interviews. It was all good. It was really bittersweet because I'd lost a really good client, like money-wise, but also generally just really great guy that I enjoyed working with. But having the courage to do the right thing, express the integrity, I wasn't doing the very best for him. And if I'm not doing the very best, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I love it.
So again, I think it's all intertwined for me. It's having
100%.
the courage to do that, to do that.
So I think it's very interesting because you've selected another one of my business's values there. So the flagship way, passionate and courageous in our pursuit of excellence.
Nice.
And courageous for me. And it was interesting, one of the terms you used a minute ago about it being a softer thing. So you're absolutely right with courage. A lot of people think that it's like, that you envision like the sword and the stone and, like facing massive adversity and what have you. But actually in reality, particularly with the mental health training that we do and stuff like that, courage is, for some people, is just leaving the house in the morning, and I've been there when I was sort of recovering from being really poorly. Sometimes it took me courage just to stand up because I was scared that I was going to fall off the hospital bed. And I think that people need to realise that courage is something that's subjective at different times in your life. Sometimes you're going to feel really, really strong and powerful, and empowered to be able to face whatever challenges you've got. And sometimes you're going to be struggling. And I think that we've got to be kind to ourselves, which is really, really important. But having the courage to recognise that we're not invincible, our vulnerability, because I think there's real courage. One of the things I was talking about the other day with someone actually was that there's real courage in vulnerability, to be able to go, do you know what, like, I'm not there yet, or whatever challenges you're facing, and just having the vulnerability to be able to face, or the courage to face those vulnerabilities, I think is massively important. And I think a lot of people will be at home feeling isolated and have their challenges, particularly in the situations we've faced currently, which have really been upsetting for people. And courage isn't, I just wanted to make that point, because actually you're one of the first people to have raised courage as one of the important things. Obviously there's different terminology for different stuff, right? But I love the term courage, and I think that it's sort of for me, language is important in the language we use, and I listen to how people use language. And I think courage is misused, because you're absolutely right with, sometimes it's being able to really stand up for something you believe in, but sometimes it is just little steps.
You're absolutely right, and I think self-awareness probably should have been on my list actually, but you're right. And I've had days where, do you know what, just getting out of bed, that was it, that was courage. I think it is so subjective, it's so varied, and again, it's just another one of those really deeply personal things. And I really like the word courage. I think you're right with language, and a lot of this stuff is kind of like different terms and different labels for different things. But I think courage to me, it is a gentle, strong word. It's not, you know, I suppose an alternative would be brave, right?
Yeah.
And again, being subjective, that's a word that I use to my son quite a lot. So I, you know, maybe I've intentionally or subconsciously separated the two, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, courage, I think is yeah.
Yeah, big time. And you know, like calling bullshit on a lot of the other people out there who make content and do podcasts and the hustle and grind and getting up at 4 and 5 in the morning and doing this and pushing that and, you know, 10x. To be fair, it sounds like I'm knocking Grant Cardone, and there's no chance he's ever going to listen to my podcast, right? But actually,
you never know.
I'm not. Yeah, no, but I'm not. That's not me knocking him or any of that culture. But I think a lot of people, you know, with social media, there's this expectation on people to sort of fit this square peg in this square hole that is, you know, it's so, you know, it's just BS, right? It's just BS. Just be courageous to be who you are, like that vulnerability, and show that vulnerability. And you know, that's quite courageous stuff. And I think it stops a lot of people from really putting themselves out there, who are really, really good, because a lot of the front is just crap, to be honest.
It's really hard, isn't it? Because I think comparison is something. Gosh, I mean, I don't want to get. Well, I kind of do want to get deep here, so I'm going to roll with this. You'll bring me back, won't you? I know you will. But you know, as human
100%.
beings, I'm not an expert on this at all. This is just my ramblings. But as human beings, we have a fundamental need to be accepted, don't we? When you think like when we were living in caves and stuff, if the tribe didn't like you, you'd get thrown out to the wolves or whatever. I don't know. But there is this, it's a human being. It's part of being a human being, isn't it? And I think now we're faced with social media and everybody's perfectly polished, glossy highlights of how amazing their business is and how amazing everything is. Nobody's posting do you know what? I actually couldn't bring myself to get out of bed today because I just feel that rubbish. That stuff's happening, just people don't have the courage to talk about it, or they don't know how it will be perceived or whatever. So I think it is that kind of pushes us back into our shells a little bit more. And I'm a big fan of Brené Brown. She's like my hero. Are you familiar with the goddess?
I'll be honest. I know of her, but I've not read any of her books or watched any of her YouTubes. To be honest, how bad's that, right?
No, that is not bad. And please, please, this is totally your podcast. It is all about you. But promise me you will watch A Call to Courage.
Okay, cool.
I think it was on Netflix. I've watched it like 100 times, and each time I'm like, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm crying.
Is it a documentary? Is it?
It's a talk, so it's only about an hour, but it's her speaking, and it's about courage and vulnerability. And but she's just a phenomenal woman. The way she the way she speaks, the way she uses stories, and it's all, she researches shame, and it's a really, like, when I first came across, that's a really weird thing, but actually it's so interesting, and again, it's all about courage, showing up for yourself, and I think authenticity is a bit of I view that as a bit of a buzzword, but it's when it is authentic, it's authentic, you know. And yeah, I love her because she talks about these things quite a lot, and again, it's a life and business thing, isn't it? It's not just love that woman.
Okay, so you're the, to be fair, I've heard other people say they love her and what have you before, and I've not gone and looked and or found her for whatever reason, because that's just the journey I've been on, right? But you've articulated the best out of anyone so far to a reason to go and listen. So yeah, well done for that, right?
I'm going to check in with you next week to make sure you have as well.
A bit of accountability from the VA as well. Check that out.
Absolutely,
right?
Yep.
Wow, if that isn't a promo for the business, nothing will be, right? Okay, cool.
Subtle.
Right then, talk to me about fostering resilience. Resilience is super important, and it ties in quite nicely with what we're talking about too. So,
yeah, I thank my brothers for my resilience. I think being the youngest girl, I think I've naturally fostered a resilience through most of my life.
Character building.
Yeah, that's how they describe it. Yeah, have you got sisters?
I have.
Yeah, there we go. But actually, I think from a young age, I was always, my brothers are a bit older than me, so I was always trying to keep up. I wanted to be involved, I wanted to be climbing the trees. I wanted to be doing what my brothers were doing. And I think I am a very resilient person. However, it's another business muscle, I view it as. And I think resilience is something that you need to keep working at. I think in the importance of it, again, it kind of ties quite nicely in, because it's the mindset again, isn't it? And I think resilience is something that if you don't strengthen, and you strengthen by keep growing, keep pushing, keep learning, keep making mistakes, keep getting up, which is kind of, what we all go through. I think in any capacity, I don't know, do you ever arrive in business? Do you ever arrive and you're like, oh, okay, I'm done now?
No, pretty much. So,
You don't, do
right.
you?
Here's a
I
book
don't
back.
think
Here's a
so.
book back for you, Simon
Oh,
Sinek,
oh,
the Infinite Game,
I have
which is the
not
most
read
recent
it.
one.
I have
So
not read it, but I love him. Tell me more.
that's about this idea that like we talk about winning and losing, particularly people like Trump, for example, talks about, yeah, we're really great and we're winning and what have you, and actually in life there isn't really winners and losers. There's no finite game. It's not a zero sum where one person wins, another person needs to lose. It's like it's like this ongoing thing. There's no end. The only end is the ultimate end, which is the equalizer for all of us, right? So the Infinite Game is essentially it sort of highlights that we use language which talks about winning and losing, but ultimately it's just about setting a vision and it's about enjoying the journey, and that's really clearly what sort of happiness is. But yeah, resilience is really, really important. I was having a great conversation the other day during one of the mental health trainings that I was running around resilience, and that someone challenged that they believed that resilience was something that we had as in our nature and or not. And I made it clear to them that it's a muscle that we develop, and it's something which is massively important that we work on. Before we move on to having fun, resilience massive. I love it. But one of my big things is this equation: E plus R equals O. Right. So E is an event.
Okay. I'm sorry. I feel like it's the VA in me again. I need to write this down.
Write it down. No.
Okay.
Write it down. It's all good. And listeners, write this down. Right. So E plus R equals O. Or just go and Google it. It's out there. Right. I don't even know where it came from, but E is an event. Right. So it's out of our control. We can't control what happens. Someone might die or some shit might happen, because that's one of the rules of life. I have 3 rules of life. I'll share those with you too. But one of them is shit happens. And the sooner we get over that, right. So an event happens, and then R plus R is our responsibility. It's not our responsibility, but how able we are to respond to that event, and how well we've worked at nurturing that in ourselves, and how able we are to turn a negative into a positive. And then that equals O, which is the outcome. So we can affect outcome. We can't affect what happens to us, but we can affect outcome by our resiliency and our ability to respond. There we go. So
that is brilliant. That is brilliant. And you're absolutely bang on. Absolutely bang on, because you're right. You can't and I'm a self-confessed recovering control freak.
I'm not even recovering.
I mean,
I'm just out there.
Show me a business owner that isn't a control freak. But I've realised that my control freak tendencies were hindering me, and I was getting in my own way with that. But yeah, it's that response. It's the how can I deal with this, or how can I choose to not deal with it sometimes, because I'm a big advocate of picking battles.
Sometimes, absolutely. I was having that conversation the other day. Yeah, big time. Sometimes you've just got to have the courage to not delve into something. Sometimes,
I think that takes greater courage. Yeah. And I think I'm coming back to your three. I've written them down. I want to know your 3 things.
Oh, okay, right,
okay. Before we do, can I just say, oh no, has it gone from my mind already? I was just going to say, I don't want to get political here at all, but the Jacinda, the New Zealand president lady, I'm in love with her as well. And just to be clear, I don't swing that way. I am a happily married woman to a husband. But I think
I've got a lot of two husbands.
Two husbands. I think she's incredible, and I've seen so many like memes and things being shared on social about her talking about empathy, and how she's faced criticism in her life and career for being seen as being weak because she's empathetic. And I'm just like, you keep banging that drum. You keep banging that drum, because I think I in a small way relate to that, because I think I've always been viewed as perhaps a bit soft or a bit fluffy or a bit weak, because I do care and I am empathetic, and I think, again, it's all these things we've been talking about. You don't have to be this ruthless, like, business tycoon to be successful, do you? I suppose it depends on what success is, and that's another very deeply personal, subjective thing. But tell me your three rules.
Yeah, control and power and all that. It's I believe we've outgrown that as a race. Yeah, so a lot of it is about contribution. It's about contribution. It's about vision. It's about creating a better future for everyone. Okay, so my three things, right? Okay, so 1, goalpost move.
Goalpost move. They do move.
Goalpost move, right?
Yeah.
So the sooner we get over that, the happier we'll be, because goalpost move. The next one is there's no guarantees. Nothing's ever guaranteed, so don't ever be disappointed when it changes. And the third one is life's unfair.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, you're a wise man, but I feel like we need to talk about that life's unfair thing a little bit. I need to know more about that, because you're absolutely right. There are no guarantees, and I think that's something. Perhaps I'm relating to that, as I would use that as that to me is an expression of gratitude type thing, isn't it? It's there are no guarantees, but I'm incredibly grateful for what I have, and there is always. But life's not fair.
Yeah, gratitude.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, okay. So life is unfair. So basically, you're going to get dealt a bum hand occasionally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's back to the event thing. Like, life's unfair. Yeah. Shit happens. It's a bit like, so it's not really saying, because you've got to be grateful that we're equipped and we have the ability to learn new things and learn new tools and ways of succeeding. So we're grateful and have gratitude in that way. However, it's kind of back to the event thing, right? So like things will happen outside of our control, and it's a bummer. But if people get caught up on that, like, you just can end up ruining your life by getting caught up on shit that's happened. So life's unfair. Let's draw a line under it and let's make our own luck. Because I don't think there's sort of any other way. So yeah, they're sort of my three key rules, and I think by accepting them, it's your armory around being able to go out and sort of do what you got to do.
I love that. I really do. I've written them down. Cool. I might put them on a little poster or something. No, I do. I love that.
If you do, send it to me.
I will do.
Quote me.
I will do. I'm going to totally do that. I'm going to put you on a little social media tile and splatter it out over the Alchemy channels.
I don't know. I've probably ripped someone off, though, to be fair. The amount of books I've read, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just in your subconscious. But I think, again, it kind of all comes back to the things that we know. And I love that you were saying about kind of, you're right. I think, and I say this, I am not naive to the heartbreaking loss and grief and just the awfulness of this whole COVID situation that we've been in recently. But I think I'm a glass overflowing kind of girl. I think I've probably come across that way. But I think you've always got a choice. And it's fear, or it's kind of compassion and hope and opportunity. And it's not always easy to see those options. And I think, again, in terms of taking action, I like to try and remind myself that, where am I acting from here? What is it? Is it this place of fear and lack, and or is it more of this kind of trusting, abundant, compassionate place of the integrity, family, all these things? And I think it's easy to lose sight, but I wholeheartedly agree. I think, again, another one of the wonderful things to come out of the lockdown experience, should we call it, is that kind of rekindling back to connection and community and compassion. And I hope that lives long beyond the virus. I hope that we don't all just go back to living in our little boxes and not giving a crap about each other. And, you know, I hope that kind of connection keeps fostering forward, because that's what makes us human, right?
Yeah, love it. Yeah, definitely. Amen to that.
I feel like we've got a little deep.
We have. So
I am very happy about that.
We're back round onto the final thing. So we're back round onto the final thing, which is about having fun, right?
Yeah.
And let's gear ourselves up ready for the weekend, which we're at now, right? So
I know. I do feel like I could have a little glass of something right now.
Okay, cool.
Quite good.
So what does fun mean for Suzy?
What does fun
Obviously, I only
mean?
share so much, right?
Oh, okay. Actual things. I mean, well, to be honest, Pete, I run a business. I've got a kid and a husband and a family and all the other stuff. Fun to me is actually getting like a 10-minute bubble bath, if I'm honest.
Oh, okay.
I don't have much time. I love, fun for me is having a full life, and I choose to be, I don't like this busy is a badge of honor thing, but I choose to keep my life full, because that makes, with the things that bring me joy. And I think having fun is something that I always try to do every day. And again, maybe that comes back to family for me. I think I as challenging it as it is having the family here at the moment, and I spending time with my boy, I think that's the greatest amount of fun I think I could ever have, because soon he's going to be a smelly teenager who hates me.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Although he's a total mummy's boy, so I'm really hoping that he'll always, but anyway, I just think
still going to happen, and then he's going to bring home some horrible girl who you really don't like as his girlfriend, and you're going to hate her.
Honestly, I'm going to be the worst. Like, I don't, girl, boy, whoever it is he brings home, I'll be like, right, sit down, I need to talk to you. But I think it is family. Again, they're all kind of, I didn't realise how closely interlinked they were.
Nice. But, yeah, well, good. No, but
how about you?
This is how it is. So, yeah, okay, so let's just have a little look at my weekend. Tomorrow I'm working, Saturday, rubbish. But Sunday, we're taking a train journey down. The kids have been to London before, but not properly. And because it's a bit quiet, we're going to take the train down. We're going to get the tube to the Big Red bus, and then we're going to go on an open-top bus tour around London, as well as a river cruise. Nothing too exciting or extortionate or anything like that.
Cool.
And then we're going to have a little bit of a tour of London whilst it's quiet and have a look at the sights and stuff like that. Get a little bit of history, and then hopefully we'll gauge a bit more from the kids what's really interesting for them, and then it gives us an opportunity to take them back another time later on in the summer holidays, right?
Oh, that sounds great.
So yeah, buzzing for that. So that's our little bit of fun, right? But one of the things, I guess, is like having fun in business, but it can be tricky, right? It can be tricky, so you've got to try and find the fun. Try and find the fun big time, I think. Yeah,
and I think that's a boundaries thing as well, isn't it? I think a lot of my clients and connections, you do become close, you do become friends, but I think you always need to be enjoying what you're doing, or what's the point, right? So I think fun's a real big, but then again, I mean, I believe life is all about balance, and it's the balance between fun, professional. It's a balance, isn't it? But absolutely. If you're not having fun, then what's the point?
Exactly. There we go. There is Suzy's quote for the podcast. If you're not having fun, what's the point? That's how I'm gonna list this one. Right. Okay. So we've come in it, right? Little soundbite. We'll come to like the end. I can't believe how quickly that's gone. So final thing, give yourself a bit of a plug, Suzy, what you do, where people can find you, that sort of thing. Go for it.
A plug. Oh my goodness. Thank you. And I hope it's a case of time flies where you're having fun, because I've loved hanging out with you.
Cool.
So probably the best way to get in touch with me. So my business is Alchemy VA. Our website is alchemyva.co.uk. And look me up on LinkedIn. Definitely love a bit of LinkedIn.
Nice. I love a bit of LinkedIn. I love a bit of LinkedIn banter as well. Some people get a bit too serious on there. They need to have a little more fun.
It's not Facebook.
No, of course it's not. No, exactly. Right, you've been an absolute superstar. Thank you for joining me. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. Give us some feedback. Obviously, like, subscribe, share with people who you think might be interested. And we'll catch you again next time. Thank you very much. Thanks, Suzy. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate your time. Please do follow me at Pete Rushmer on LinkedIn, or on Facebook, follow Flagship Training UK, and you can find us on YouTube too at Flagship UK.